Hi, everyone, and welcome to A New View. I'm Juji, and I'm here with Lee, Kim, and Shira. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, I am so excited to introduce you all to someone very special to me. Please welcome my friend and former business partner, Charde Smith, to the show.
Hello.
Charde. Charde is a is a seasoned veteran of the beauty industry, a fabulously talented stylist, and an incredible advocate for women entrepreneurs. Today, we're going to talk about her journey and how she went from working for brands to creating quite a few of them of her own. But before we get started, Charde, we always have a question for our guests. What is the best compliment you've ever received in your career?
Oh, that's a tough one. I've received a lot because working with people, you always get, you always have people telling you certain, things and how much they love what I've done and things like that. But I have to remember there was this one time before I came to New York and I was doing makeup on this woman. She was an older woman, very beautiful. She had a cleft lip, and I would never forget this story. And so I'm just doing her makeup. Like I'm just like, I never even like acknowledged that. I just was like, oh, you want me to do your makeup? I'm gonna do your makeup. So I ended up just like lining her lips just to even everything out, just really. And I did it not even thinking that I was covering it. I was just like, I'm just kind of making everything like aesthetically correct, pleasing, or not saying that there was anything wrong with it. But when she looked at her makeup, she was just like, oh my gosh, like she was just so taken aback. And we actually had a moment where she just gave me like the biggest hug, and she's like, your hands are, and you're touched by God. And she's like, you
Aw.
really touched my life, and you really touched me. And in a way that like not even my doctors have been able to help me. And I really appreciate this moment. And that sat with me, and that like let me know that I'm in this, in this career, not to not for like glam and glitz. Like I really love connecting with people. And then I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to actually like really do what I've always wanted to do. And like within the next like 6 months, I was in New York. So, that was one of the things that really struck home with me, that I was doing the right thing in my career. So that always sticks with me.
Wow, that's like the best compliment. You
It
made
really was.
impacted her. That's awesome.
I actually like started tearing
I
up.
know, I was like I'm very emotional, so I'm trying not to like,
You don't hold back
at
the tears
least.
here, Charday. No holding back the tears.
That is something I'm working on, actually. I'm used to just internalizing everything. So I'm actually working on releasing.
I love that. We're all about vulnerability. Sade, why don't you start by just telling us how you got into the beauty industry?
Yeah, it was actually it's actually a really funny story. Thank you. I just got my coffee from my daughter,
Hi,
my
Maya.
little assistant. Um, so it was actually a funny story. My mom actually is a makeup artist as well. She was in the beauty industry. So I grew up all around it. Like I always had, she always played fashion shows. I don't know if anyone remembers, but VH1 used to play like fashion shows on like Sundays or something like that. So like she always had it playing in the house. I grew up in Bermuda, and so it's always just been a part of me. And then if anyone knows anything about people that live in Bermuda, you never go anywhere without like head to toe being dressed like to the nines, even like at the airport, like because it's a very small island and everyone sees everyone, so you always have to make sure like you look your best at all times. So I just grew up like always like, everyone called me, like I was always prim and proper. So I've always been interested in the beauty industry. So in high school, I would always be that, that girl who's always like, oh, let me fix your hair. I never wore makeup myself, but I always wanted to, do it on everyone. So my friend and I, after we graduated and we're out like just partying, being, you know, people that just graduated from high school do. And our mom sat us down one day and was like, you two have 2 weeks to get a job. So we partied the whole like 2 weeks. And then I just walked into, I was like, you know what, I want to be a makeup artist. And I just walked into Mac, and which is crazy because it's crazy hard to get a job at Mac. And I was like, are you hiring? And long story short, I ended up getting the job at Mac, and that was how my makeup, you know, it wasn't, you know, that's how my makeup career began. I owe a lot of my, the way that I do my artistry to, you know, what I learned as a Mac artist, and their values like really stuck with me throughout my career. So that was just it's funny that it started that way, and then it just ended up going into something, you know, that brought me here today.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I love the fact that you knew that you wanted to be a makeup artist, and that led you into, you know, what you did for years.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. My mom, in elementary school, I had to make a little book of like what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And in it, she's like, I looked back and it said I wanted to be a hairstylist. So I ended up doing both. Like I did makeup first and then I got into hair, but it's crazy that you sort of know what you want to do when you're younger. And then it just, you know, the fact that I've always known that that's what I want to do, then I did it. So that's always been a fun story.
Yeah, I was clueless when I was younger. I still am not sure I know what I want to do yet.
When you grow up, or if you grow up.
Yes.
It's funny that you mentioned that about always having to kind of have a face on in Bermuda. Just because, first of all, I didn't know that. That's very interesting that in that part of the world, that's how it is. But one of my questions for you today was if you know, felt pressure to constantly portray a certain image working in the industry, but it sounds like that's how it was growing up in Bermuda.
Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily that, like, it was just like everyone is Bermudians are very like well put together people, and it was just it's just like you have to look a certain way, and I do, and now looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I do remember that. And my mom was big on that too. Like I remember, like, you know, she'll FaceTime me sometimes and she's like, what's going on, where's your makeup, what's, you know. And I've through the years gotten her to like not wear as much makeup as she used to, because I stopped wearing as much makeup too, and really focusing on like my skin. And yeah, I do feel I mean it sort of elevated as I got, you know, and you know, as I started working with Mac, because you have to have like a minimum of 3 products on, like each, like 3 eyeshadows, a minimum of, you know, like a foundation, a blush, a highlighter, and you know, so I would never leave the house without like lashes, everything.
So, Charde, I have a question for you. So obviously you started out in Mac, you knew what you want to do, then you got this job at Mac, and then obviously you're an entrepreneur now. So can you take us, like, when was the leap from I'm working to I'm going to be my own boss?
Yeah, so I've always had this bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. Like it was so funny. I was looking the other day, and 7 years ago, I started like my mom blog, and it just reminded me of it. And so I've always had this little thing of that I wanted to start. I started off as Love It Like Charde, because you know, I love everything. So I was like, you know, I want you to love it like I do. So that I've always had it in me, but I've always done it along with working for Mac. And I worked for Mac in Florida. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, I went to hair school. And a lot of it too was because I'm a bit of a control freak, and I want to be able to take care of the whole look. So I went to hair school. I didn't anticipate loving it as much as I did. And so I started doing hair alone for a while, and a little bit of makeup here and there. And then when I moved to New York, I got back with Mac Cosmetics, and I was working with them for a while, still doing a little things on the side. So it was always there, but I never really noticed it. And I was working at Bloomingdale's in Soho. And retail is is an experience. Working in retail is an experience. So I was just going through a lot of different changes, and then, you know, being a single mom, that was really tough. And I started to want to grow within the company, and they were holding me back a lot. And then I started taking on a little bit more of more freelance jobs, and I noticed how much money I was making there. And then it started really getting my entrepreneurial spirit up, and like thinking like, if I'm putting this much, as much as I'm putting into this company, if I'm putting that much into them, I'm making them this much money. What if I were to do that for me? And that's, you know, I got turned down for a position that I went for, that I really tried hard to go for. And I was like, you know what, this is my sign. It's time for me to work for myself. And I left and I never looked back.
And how long ago was, wait, I have two questions. How long ago was that? And then a follow-up is, who are your entrepreneurial role models that maybe like
Okay.
inspired you to?
You know, let me think. So we did Jolie in like 2016. I'm like going back. So that was like 2014, 15, 2015 was when I left. And then who do I look at? Like I look at a lot of different people. Like I really like once I got into the industry as like just a freelancer, Jen Adkin was a really big person that I looked at, because I loved how she owns Way, and she owns Main Addicts. And I loved that she had all these different brands, but still like was able to show exactly like what she wanted to show within the different brands. And I wanted, because I always had all these different ideas. Like I was like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, you know, but I don't, you know, want to seem like I'm trying to be the jack of all trades, master of none type thing. So seeing her wear all these different hats and be successful at it, that was a big, you know, inspiration for me. And for the same reason, Issa Rae, she's an actress and she owns a production studio. She owns so many different things. And I just love seeing people just really go for what they want, and really you see their struggle, you see where they came from, and just really succeed at it. And I really look to that.
Awesome.
And this leads us to when we met.
Yes.
now we're up on the timeline.
Right.
That was, I know, I was like, what? So when does the story of Juji and Charde start?
Well, remind me what year was that? So now here we are, 2015, you left your corporate day job, so to speak, and then you decided, okay, I'm gonna take on more clients and start building this business for myself as a hairstylist and a makeup artist. So then that was 2015. So when did you guys meet up?
To about 2016, I believe, like no, it was in January of 2016, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we already knew each other in the fall of 2015, because you started freelancing for Jolie. And I don't know, there was just something about you that like clicked for me. I saw how clients reacted to you. And part of what I loved so much is that like for lack of a better word, you were just so genuine. Like there was no like fake putting on a different persona for clients. You were just you. And I could tell how much they appreciated that. And then, you know, like that coupled with incredible skill. I mean, like, I can't wait for you to cut my hair. I need it so bad. But yeah, I mean, there was just something about both of us, and like how, you know, quick we were to pick up on what was just going on, like what was in the ether all the time. Like you were constantly coming up with solutions to problems, bringing me all of these different cool ideas. And, you know, it was like like, who is this person that is just so on it all the time? Like, it felt like such serendipity that you happened to know my former business partner, and that's how you found us on Facebook and this, that, and the other thing. But then, you know, you walked in and you changed the landscape of the business pretty much instantaneously. So I don't know if I even know the answer to this question, but what made you decide that you wanted to be partners with me at that time?
You know what? That was, so backing it up a little bit, I knew Juji's former business partner. We worked together, and we actually knew each other from Florida too. So it was kind of like, when you look at the whole timeline of how things went down, I had like Juji and I were supposed to meet. Like, I feel like we were like friends in a past lifetime, like something. Like, it was just like, it was almost like scary, because I've always wanted to open up a studio exactly like what they started. And it was exact, like, I walked in and I was like, oh my, I fell in love with it instantly. Like, I was like, I see that you opened up something. I would love to because at the moment, like, I was freelancing. So I was, and I wanted just something, somewhere where I can have my clients come to me, and also still, like, if I were to, go to them, like, I could still do that. So I walked in and I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. And they're telling me what they started and what, their plan, like, this is, they have lockers for clients that want to leave their stuff here. And I'm just like mind blown, because I'm like, this is exactly like what I would have thought of. Like, I wanted to always create like an experience for customers, So
At this point, how long was Jolie already there?
Like 6 months?
Oh, it was new. It was
Yeah.
kind of new.
And just so the audience knows what we're talking about, Jolie Beauty Bar was a beauty bar in Lower Manhattan that you guys were partners, right? It was a brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
yes. Juji started with a former business partner, and I came in as just a stylist. And as I came, I really fell in love with the place. And even as I was just a stylist, I was still like, oh, like, why don't you try this and try that? And I loved it, because like, I would always get pushback from jobs previously where I would say, like, I think that, because like Gigi said, like, I see an issue arise and I'm always like, okay, this is like a better way to do it, or a different way to do it. And it was never really received as well as it was when I would talk to Juji about it. And, it was refreshing. So like, the more and more, like, she, allowed me to really just speak my mind and say, okay, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. The more I fell in love with it. So when, when the split happened between Juji's former business partner and herself, like, I was just like, you know what? I'm so in love with this place, and it's become like so a part of me. And like, I saw how devastated Juji was, and because like, she put a lot of work into that place. Like, it looked beautiful. And I was like, I want to keep this going. Like, we're going to keep this going, because it's too good to let this go. And we were invested in our clients. We were invested in the business. Like, I'm like, there's no way that we're going to let this go. Like, absolutely not. So like, my like worker hat came on. I was just like, you know what, this is what we're going to do. And we just kind of hit the ground running. And we created, like, honestly, like, I get emotional speaking of it, because I totally, I miss that moment. And I feel like, it was a moment that needed to happen. But the world, like, I don't think the world was ready for for it as of yet, ready for us. But we created something that will stick with me for the rest of my life, because of the connections that we got from it. And my connection with Juji, like, we've had our ups and downs, but the love that we have for each other, like, stayed constant. And the passion that we had to put out something that meant something, it's, you know, it was there. And that really was the beauty of Jolie. You know, we had clients that would just come in just to chill, you know, and that's what we wanted to create. And we did it. You know, we didn't have the funding. We didn't have like a lot of things that we, you know, needed to have to be able to succeed. And that was unfortunate, because I feel like we created something that was great, but, you know, and it did what it needed to do at the time.
Well, and it sounded like it made so much impact on women's lives. And I just really
like
thank you guys for that.
we did a lot. We did a lot of different things. Like, you know, we were very vocal about how we felt. Like, you know, when Trump was elected, we were very vocal about how we felt, and what it was like. The day that I remember, the day that he was elected, we just like put on our social media and like was just like, if you guys need to just come in and cry, like we're here for you. Because that was the kind of environment that we created for our clients. And like, let's come in, let's talk about it, let's, you know what I mean? Like, it was a great place for that. And I'm really happy that we were able to create something like that.
I think that's so awesome, because I'm also in the world of marketing and branding. And I think that, you know, people purchase with their emotions. They don't purchase with their logic. So it's really important to make that personal connection. And obviously, you know that, because not only did you, you know, do what you do, but now you're doing what you do now in terms of creating brands. So I'm just so curious if we can sort of like start to tap a little bit into like this brand creation part of your journey. I'm really interested.
No, it came about, so within the middle of us having Jolie, my dad passed away, and that was extremely tough. And I will always love Gigi for being there for me during that time, because I don't even know what I would have done without her. But that was really tough. And around the same time, like, you know, Gigi and I were just going through a little bit of changes. Like it's like we put so much into Jolie, and just not seeing the results that we wanted to see, that we, you know, I think that both of us deserve to see. And the work that we were putting into it took a toll on both of us. You know, like we were working extremely too much. We were you know, just putting a lot of energy into something that we just, you know, we really loved, and it was a lot. So, you know, we decided to part ways, and I took Jolie and made it a mobile service. And during that time, like, you know, it was doing very good. And then I'm dealing with, you know, the loss of my father, loss of, you know, my business, and trying to revamp that. And I think that was an extremely tough time. And that started like a really bad, like deep depression that I went into for the next like year and a half to 2 years, where my mom, you know, she saw that I was struggling, and she took my daughter, not like took in a bad way, but she, you know, was helping me. So my daughter went to live in Florida, and that was like the first time since I became a mother that I was without my daughter for more than like a week, you know? So as much as it needed to happen, it was still tough. And I rebranded the business and did all of these things. And that during this like time of like, you know, I would get up and like I would be laying in bed all day, and then like having to like force myself up to go to a client, and then come back and be in bed. And it was tough. And I left New York for like 3 months to come back to be with my family, and just to sort of like clear, you know, get my mind back. Like it's like one thing about dealing with depression, it's like you're in there and you're like fighting, like trying to get yourself out of it, and you just don't really know how to do that. So I was going to therapy, I was doing all of the things that, you know, trying to help myself. So when I came back to New York after the 3 months, I was like working like one step at a time, trying to like get back on the right track. And I was doing very good. And then the pandemic hit. So it's like, I'm in therapy, and my therapist is like, okay, one day at a time, like you're gonna get out of bed, like try to get out of bed, then try to get out of the room, then try to get out of the house, you know? And I finally made it to the step where I get out of the house, and then it's like, no, but go back to bed. so
in a boxing
you know,
ring, and like you keep trying to get up and you keep getting like punched.
like it was insane. So I think that through me working through my depression and through me working through all of the things that I was working through, I'm thankful that I was able to use those the things that I learned on how to handle not getting back there. I used it you know, to get through quarantine. And honestly, quarantine was needed, I think, for a lot of different people. And it sucks that so many people were affected by COVID, you know, not to shed any light on, you know, the people that we've lost and how terrible this pandemic is. But, you know, it was just a reset. And I took 2 weeks and I just like, I'm not doing a thing. Like, I'm just sitting, I'm not doing anything. And there's something that comes out of like a stillness that just really just speaks to you. And I was just like, I felt like Jolie, as much as I loved it, it was like kind of like beating like a dead horse. Like, it's like, okay, we tried. And I was like, I cannot rebrand this anymore. So then I started thinking like, okay, well, how can I take, and even before the quarantine hit, I kept thinking, I think even I was talking to Juji about it too, when we were working together. I was like, I want to do more. I'm like, I love doing makeup, I love doing hair, but I want to do more. And that was always in my head, like, I want to do more. And I never thought that I would like want to leave the beauty industry because it's so a part of me. And after I just like took the 2 weeks off and I just relaxed, I was like, I want to help. You know, I'm seeing a lot of the things that are going on with the pandemic. I'm seeing a lot of the racial issues that are coming up. And I'm noticing like, you know, Black women are really not given the opportunity to see themselves in any like the media and advertising and anything. And I want to change that. Like, I want to work to really try to change that and try to get, you know, Black women entrepreneurs, like, you know, ready to run like a business correctly and market themselves correctly. And so I started taking like marketing classes, and then I'm listening, I'm in the class and I'm like, I know all of this stuff. Like, I was doing this stuff, like I've been doing this stuff. So that's sort of where, and I, at the time I was calling it 888 Beauty, because I was just like, I want to help people from a beauty perspective, because when you're a hairstylist or a makeup artist, you're very personal with someone, and you approach talking to them and like not marketing per se, but you handle them a little bit differently. Like you sort of get to know who they are, you know how to speak to them. Like, I always say, Sex in the City was like a big thing on how I handled my customers, because, you know, you wouldn't handle Carrie the same way you would handle Samantha. You wouldn't handle Miranda the same way that you would handle Charlotte. So that's essentially like what I wanted to bring into marketing and teaching people how to speak to their target audience. And it just grew from there. And honestly, I was like, this is what I've been thinking, and what I meant by saying I wanted to do more. Like, I went through all that I went through with Jolie, with, you know, having a business partner, with splitting with a business partner, with getting back together with my business partner, you know, I went through all of that to teach me how to have people not go through the same things that I went through.
Charde, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned as an entrepreneur that now you're in a position after the stillness really pass that along to one of your clients?
I think that honestly, the biggest thing that I've learned is to be still and not think that you have to know everything, and just trust in the process. You know, once you stay true to yourself and stay true to your values, people are going to catch on to it regardless, you know? So just like if I have any advice to give, it's really just stay true to yourself, stay true to remember why you wanted to start, and always come back to that every time you're having a tough moment. Remember that thing that that you thought of when you first thought of like the birth of your brand, the birth of your business, because if you stay true to that, the people are going to come, you know what I mean? Like if you continuously put it out there, like there's people that still say that they remember Jolie, and they were, because we were very authentic, we were very, we put out things with a purpose. And if you stay true to like your why, why you started, then you're going to go places. It may not be as quickly as you want it to, but it's going to happen.
All right, guys, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. We are so, so, so grateful to have spent time with you, Charde. I know it was a very special treat, especially for me. We hope you enjoyed part 1 of our conversation with us as much as you did. Stay tuned for part 2. Check out the links to our website and social media below. If you enjoy our show, please click like and subscribe to our channel, tell a friend, spread the word. Please also let us know if you have any comments or questions, or if you have a topic you'd like to request. We'll see you soon. Stay safe.
Thank you, Charde.
No worries. It was fun.